Hi everyone, it's Nicole here today for Honeybee Stamps with a set of 4 cards featuring stamps and dies from the latest Be Bold release. These cards feature lots of products from the release. The two main products are the Be Bold alphabet dies, which are an incredible size, will be great not only for cards, but think about scrapbooking, home decor, all kinds of things. And then the bunch of Bouquet dies are all these fantastic flowers, vases, leaves, all of that good stuff to create some amazing floral designs. I've kind of laid out some of the supplies I'm going to use here, and we're actually going to start with the Bitty Patterns stamp set. This is a small 4x4 stamp set that features 4 different pattern designs. These are made especially to customize your die cut letters from that Be Bold alphabet stamp set, but you could customize the bunch of Bouquet images, other small die cut images. These are just really great patterns. What I decided to do was take 3 sheets of A2 sized smooth white cardstock. So this is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And using my MISTI, I'm going to stamp a pattern 6 times on each paper. So I just have left my stamp in that upper right corner for the first 4 images. And what I'm doing is creating a bunch of patterns that I can die cut my letters from. I thought it would be easier, instead of customizing each one by one, to have a whole bunch, and then I can just mix and match what I die cut from. So I'm using an assortment of rainbow colored inks. In fact, I'm using Lawn Fawn Lobster and Carrot, and now Sunflower. And I just flipped my paper over so that I can hit all 4 corners. And then I did this and I repeated it. The other colors are Jalapeno, Fish Tank, and Sugar Plum. And I used 3 of the 4 designs from that Bitty Patterns stamp set. The only one I didn't use is the one that kind of looks wood grain, and we're going to use that later on to customize the vases. So what I'm doing is taping my Be Bold alphabet letters in place over these patterns, and then I'm going to run them through my die cut machine. And so that I can get as many letters as possible from these stamped patterns, I'm shifting them over. I'm not just die cutting them right from the middle of that paper. You can see there's plenty of room left from like where I die cut that T that I can die cut another letter. So as long as you're kind of aware of that, think about how many letters you can get die cut from these little patterns. Just taking a few minutes to stamp all of the patterns gives you all of these great letters a little bit later on. It really went super quick. So I'm mixing and matching, trying to die cut my letters for my first card, which is going to be the thanks card. All cards are created really similarly. I just kind of mixed up the sentiments I used to show you some different options. Now the background here, the Scallop, is also a new die. There's so many great new products here in this release. This is the, I believe it's called the Scallop. Let me grab that. The Scallop A2 frames. So it's got this great stitching detail and scallop, and I am stamping a greeting on this from the Truly Great Friends stamp set that reads, "You are the greatest." And we're going to stamp that with clear embossing ink and heat set with white embossing powder right on that aqua background. This is some Lawn Fawn Mermaid cardstock. I think it's a nice backdrop. And to do something a little different, I could have definitely centered this on my card base background. There would be a lot of white space at the top, but I thought it would be kind of fun to tip it at an angle and then just trim off all of that excess. It's just something a little bit different. I definitely used the largest rectangle from the Scallop A2 frames, however, because the word thanks is really long. So kind of be aware of the sentiment you're using and how it's going to fit. I had already laid out my letters and I knew that that's the size of rectangle I would need. On one of the other cards I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to be using the second largest because it really fit the sentiments I was using better. I've also die cut all of my Be Bold alphabet from some dark gray cardstock. This is Lawn Fawn Storm Cloud cardstock. And I am slightly offsetting those stamped patterns over the gray. So it gives them a little bit of a shadow and it really makes them stand out. You can see then I have die cut a vase from that bunch of Bouquet die collection, and I stamped that bitty pattern on there with the wood grain for a tone on tone, so fish tank on that blue, dark blue cardstock, and I've tucked it back behind and kind of overlapping some of the letters just for a little additional interest. And then we're going to fill the vase with stems, leaves, and flowers from that bunch of Bouquet die collection. I am a huge fan of die cut cards in general, and this is a fantastic stamp set to build your own flowers and vases. There are lots and lots of options, lots of different flowers. You can layer them, you cannot. There's different vase options. There is a watering can option. There's leaf options. Really, really fun. Now, to kind of round out the design, I really felt like I needed to tuck some additional leaves down below in between the letters. Not too many, but just enough to kind of balance it out. And I'm going to keep die cutting until I get everything I need for all of these letters. I definitely went primary with my cardstock colors to match the ink colors I used for the Be Bold alphabet. And I'm using acrylic blocks to stack on top of anything I am adhering with liquid adhesive, because it tends to want to curl it up, and this keeps everything super nice and flat while I'm still working on the design until all of that liquid adhesive is completely dry. I did a lot of my die cutting off camera to save time, and I save all of my little scraps of cardstock. I keep everything in little folders, which I will be sharing a video soon. I've got plans for lots and lots of extra content videos that will probably be more here on my YouTube channel and not on my blog. Just extra little videos about organization or making swatch books, things like that, things I've had on my to-do list forever. I am just got to get some little time here to get all of those finished up for you. But I save all of my cardstock scraps because for any little tiny die cuts like this, it's so great. I just save the scrap with the rest of the 8.5 by 11 paper in a folder, and it's easy to find, and it's very easy to die cut all of these little parts and pieces, and you're still using up all of that cardstock. I'm a big fan of using up every little bit. Aren't these flowers adorable? I just love them. If you are a big flower fan, this is an amazing die collection and creates some really beautiful cards. I'm going to put some nice strong adhesive on the back of this panel. Here I'm tipping it at an angle, taking some long scissors and trimming that up to clean up all of the edges. And look how fun that is. Just a really great different kind of look. Now the friend card was created very much the same. The only difference is we put the greeting or the stamped greeting underneath the die cut greeting, so that was adhered along that bottom stitched edge first, then all of the die cut pieces. And I even added that sorry die cut from the With Sympathy die collection to go along with that. Now this is an example of a smaller rectangle that I am using some greetings from that Truly Great Friends stamp set again. But for this card, my die cut letters sentiment is a lot shorter than thanks or friend, obviously. And so I chose to do a little bit smaller rectangle, and we're actually going to center this in or on a top fold card base. And I was really just trying to use up all of those little stamped bitty patterns that I did earlier with some die cut letters. So I thought the word hey would be cute here, like, hey, thank you, was my thinking. And on this card, we're going to fill the entire rectangle. So where we've left a lot of white space on the thanks and the sorry friend card, this one is filling it all up. Again, here is that wood grain look bitty pattern that I'm going to use to add texture and interest to one of the vases. Now, because this is one of the only cards, I think this might be the only card it is, that I used multiple vases. I used 2 vases on this, or 2 flower pots. I went ahead and stamped the other one with the little dot pattern using a white pigment ink on a dark gray cardstock so that it has a pattern as well. And you can see these are really subtle, really fun patterns. Just like before, we're going to fill the vases with stems, leaves, and flowers. But this one is filling that entire rectangle. There's lots and lots of things you can do with these. I think it would be really fun to create a card that has a whole row of vases filled with different flowers too. And I love the look of layered flowers. So I would look for the similar petal shape in the die collection, and I would die cut the bigger and the smaller ones and then layer them together. This smaller flower pot here is going to be filled with a lot more greenery than the others, but still have some flowers tucked into it. And on all cards, no matter how many letters there are in the greeting, I tried to make sure that the colors of the rainbow were represented. I think this is the only one. I really wish I would have added a purple flower, and I didn't notice until I was all the way done. But just trying to get all those colors of the rainbow so that it's really bright and fun. Once I'm all done putting all of my cards together, I'm going to take a white pen and add just some simple line detail to the leaves and the flowers on each card. This is a great white opaque pen that adds some great detail. And I will do this on all 4 cards. I think it gives a fantastic finishing touch. I took glossy accents and added that to the center of the flowers. On some of the flowers there, anything that had a little circle flower center, I added glossy accents. It's going to dry clear and glossy and just have a great raised dimensional finish. And make sure and get all of the leaves, all of the flower petals. I noticed I forgot a couple, so I went back and did those real quick. And look at those come to life when you add just a simple pen detail. This is one of my very favorite tips and tricks when creating a die cut card or a very die cut heavy card. I can't really say these are completely die cut because there's the stamped patterns here on these cards, but they're very die cut heavy. Everything was really centers around these brand new dies from Honeybee Stamps. Let's take a look at all of the new products I used for my 4 cards today. We used the Bunch of Bouquets die collection for all of the flowers on the stamp, or all of the flowers on these 4 cards. Lots and lots of flowers and vases, as I talked about earlier. So cute and perfect size for cards. This Thinking of You stamp set I used for one of my cards, the Hugs card. I used Sending Big and then Hugs. It was die cut. And there's also a coordinating die for that Thinking of You. I did not use it, but there is that. The Be Bold alphabet, of course, this is the central focal point, whatever you want to call it, of my cards. Amazing alphabet die collection. The awesome Bitty Patterns 4x4 stamp set that I used to customize my Be Bold alphabet. This Truly Great Friends stamp set, I used 3 of the sentiments from this for 2 of my cards. And then the Background for All was die cut with that scalloped A2 frames. Oh, and real quick, I'm sorry, I used the With Sympathy stamp set and coordinating dies for my Sorry Friend card. And then the scalloped A2 backgrounds for all 4 cards. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this set of 4 cards featuring new dies and stamps from the Honeybee Be Bold release. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Honeybee stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.